Hey everyone, welcome to our season finale, episode 10 of Talking Trikes. I'm Kyle and I'm joined here with Darcy. Darcy, any news in the community? I hear you got a big weekend.
By the time this comes out, it's already happened, but there's a massive weekend planned for pedal pre racing in terms of pedal pre racing we've seen this year. So we've got two velodrome races happening. One is a school showdown that's just happening on Sunday of Murray Bridge, and the other is more of an open race with some really short races, which is so keen to do. I'm going to head out there. I'm going to cover it all, and I'm looking forward to getting out again.
Yep.
It's so
well,
good.
I'm sure when this video's out, your legs will be on fire and trying to recover from the weekend. So good luck to you. Yeah, that sounds really good. So tonight on the show, we've got a special guest. Who we got, Darcy?
So we've got, once again, a pretty big name. We thought we'd pick one of the biggest names for the finale, or as we could say, one of the fastest names of the finale. So tonight on the show, joining us is Tim Corbett. So Tim Corbett is one of the most well-known people in the sport, not in the current years, but in the past. So he owned and built the Phantom racing team and the Trikes, as well as some of the speed records that someone sitting right next to me has done himself. So can you tell me a little bit more about Tim, Carl?
Yeah, so Tim's been in the sport for longer than what I can remember. And I remember some of his interesting designs early on. And then I think it was 2012, his team bet the team I was racing for, Aurora, at Murray Bridge by a lap. But anyway, Tim went on to focus on building speed bikes, which I'm sure we'll hear about, which no doubt the fastest trike in the world. So let's welcome on Tim and we'll hear a little bit more about it.
Before we begin tonight's show, we've got some breaking news from Pedal Pre, from the Australian International Pedal Pre. So we have just received confirmation that they have been out at the new track at the Bend called The Bend. They are looking at some new potential track racing, which is going to be so cool because the Bend is such a fast track, and it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. So let's see how the Bend goes.
That's pretty interesting. Have you been to the track there, Darcy?
I haven't. I really haven't. I got stitched up in a couple ways. We'll talk to Ben about that one later. But it's been, I really do want to go, but from what I've heard, it's one of the fastest tracks anyone's ever been around.
Yeah, wow. So is it pretty flat or is it just long and open? Or
it's long, it's pretty open. There's so many different types of tracks they can run. The corners are really wide and fast and flowy. I saw speeds of over 65 kilometers an hour from people. Wow. So, and the laps are really long as well. So almost, I think, around Mount Gambier sort of size. So it's going to be a pretty interesting track if it goes ahead.
Yeah, you might have to pack a spare tube just so.
Yeah. Saddlebag on the back, you know.
Yeah. Very cool. That's pretty exciting. So we'll have to wait to see how that carries out. Okay, so hey everyone, here's Tim. Welcome on the show, Tim. How you been, bud?
Yeah, very well. This whole COVID scenario has been a little bit interesting, but keeping well, keeping busy.
Yeah, happy to hear. So, Tim, we had a little bit of a rundown before we introduced you, but first of all, we just want to know how you first got into the sport. Like, what brought you to trikes and these wacky three-wheel bikes?
It was a long period of time actually that it took me to get into sport. It really hailed right back to high school. My older brother was involved with the pedal pre team while I was in high school, and during my kind of formative years, I was probably 11 or 12 or something like that. Saw my brother doing pedal pre. I really wanted to get involved and do it when I got into high school. Just because of some of the things that happened in high school cliques, I never got that opportunity. So that really lit a fire in my belly over a period of time. That might sound a little bit, I hate you all, I'm going to get you, but I'm quite thankful for that in hindsight. So then I never got the opportunity to do it in high school. So I'm like, I'm going to do this as a university project. I'm going to build one of these bikes. And so I went off with a camera, I think in 2000 and either 2001 or 2002 to the Murray Bridge 24-hour race, and just bobbed around a lot of teams and took a lot of photos. Finally, the following year, did my 4th year engineering project. Really wanted to do something a bit different. There were a lot of people that are doing FEA and kind of it seemed like a lot of people were doing that, and I wanted to kind of do something a bit new and a bit different than what a lot of other people were doing. So I decided at that stage that I was going to build a monocoque bike. So this is back in about 2002, where I decided that I was going to build a monocoque bike rather than the traditional approach that most teams were getting into. It took us another year. I think 2003 was the first year that we competed at Murray Bridge. Got a good dose of it that year. That was a pretty interesting year for us. I mean, I don't think there were any years that weren't interesting for us. They were all, every one of the trips that we did over to Murray Bridge was an interesting journey for us, but we just got more and more addicted over time. And after not long, it was like, actually, we're a bit of a challenge here. We're kind of one of the major teams. We could actually finally win one of these. And so then there was kind of about a 3-year period from about 2008 through 2011 where, really lived and breathed for nothing else other than the win at Murray Bridge. So very thankful that we finally got there in 2011. That was a pretty big year for us.
Yeah. It's a really cool history. So you've talked about that in 2011. So what are you doing now in terms of the sport? So you've taken a step back, but you've gone in a different direction. So what direction have you gone, Tim?
There's kind of almost another complete history there again with what I've been doing with speed bikes for the last like 12 or 13 years or something like that. It actually almost goes all the way back to with the speed bike work that I've been doing through to 2005. Some people might remember the GT6 that we raced at various different South Australian races and a few Victorian races. I always had dual goals with that bike. One was to build a wheels out kind of racing bike that would go around corners very fast, and then a wheels in version to at that stage I looked at the 24-hour world record and saw that it was either 41 or 42 kilometres per hour. And I thought that was pretty low-hanging fruit at that stage. So I was planning to build from that GT bike that we built in 2005, I was always planning to build a wheels-in speed bike from that fairing. And so fast forward a few years, it wasn't until about 2010 where I actually got serious about that and built the first wheels-in bike version of a speed bike.
So for the listeners, can you give a brief description, the differences between a pedal pre-bike and then a speed bike, like the major difference?
Major differences. So obviously the speed bike's a lot smaller, very, very focused on aerodynamic effects. So the shape of the bike is absolutely critical. So in most of the pedal pre-bikes that you see, the widest point is maybe about 1/3 to at most 1/2 the way along the bike. With a speed bike, you typically find that the widest point is a good bit further back from that. But for people that are, I guess, accustomed to looking at pedal pre-bikes, track width typically around 600 millimeters, and a bike that's in the range of maybe 800 millimeters wide. For a competitive speed bike, you're looking at something in the order of kind of 450 to 500 millimeters wide overall bike width, and a track width for a three-wheeler around the kind of 450 millimeter mark. So much narrower, much more compact. Of course, you've been in my bike several times, Kyle, and been extremely successful.
Yeah.
So a lot narrower, and the shape is very critical. And also, I've probably spent a lot more time focusing on aerodynamic effects of the wheels and the enclosures around the wheels, and then how that works. So, in fact, in terms of how they ride, it feels very similar to a pedal-free bike, I would suggest. I mean, you've ridden a speed bike. How would you describe it, Kyle?
just faster,
Yeah.
faster and smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely.
That's a good summary.
Yeah, yeah. They're just a lot more snug. Tim's speed bike that I had all my success and records in. There's no other way to describe it as just super efficient. Like you're amazed at when you're riding around the speeds that you're doing, and you're thinking, "Is that right? Am I actually going that fast?" And yeah, I'm going that fast. So yeah, it's definitely
It's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The other thing, the bikes are super. The way that Tim builds his bike, it's super noisy inside. Like
it is.
Noisy.
It's pretty noisy in there. I think most people, they see bikes, the pedal-free bikes as being pretty noisy. The bike that I have is noisier again. It is extremely well sealed up. There's no air getting into or out of it other than where we want it to come in and out. So those cooling airflow coming through the bike is very, very controlled. As Kyle suggested, it's definitely very snug. And you really have to focus on all of those items in order to get the bikes to run a heck of a lot faster. So, I've really been focused on the high end aspects of the sport for the last 10 years or so, and that's been it has been a long journey.
Yeah, right. That's pretty crazy. So, have you picked up any records, Tim? Or how many have you picked up is probably the question.
Personally, I did get a few Australian records at one stage. Since then, both Kyle and Ned have kind of have improved on those. I did I originally used a pedal-free bike to attempt the 6-hour Australian record, and I did 43.3 kilometres per hour for 6 hours.
Wow.
I'd spent a winter in Colorado in the US, so I did a bunch of high altitude training, and came back off that thinking that that'd be the bestest training in the world to do a good 6-hour attempt. I'd have lots of extra red blood on, so I'd go very, very fast. So yeah, I was pretty happy with 43.3 at that stage. Since then, I've built a range of speed bikes. My personal best for 6 hours, I think, was I should know what this is. It was 54 point something kilometers per hour for 6 hours, and 52 point something for 12 hours. That was when I was attempting the world 24-hour solo.
Yeah.
I attempted that. I can't remember what year it was now. It might have been 2016.
2016. Because I came down.
You know the stats better than I do.
Yeah.
2016 was actually, I was originally attempting in 2015, but I got glandular fever, and that knocked the stuffing out of me about 2 months out from when I was going to attempt. So then that was leading into the summer of 2000, at the end of 2015. Took a break for a couple of months and recovered, and then trained all the way through the summer to attempt over Easter 2016. And again, I got sick about 4 weeks out. I was looking at my power figures a lot during that period. I'd been doing a lot of test work at the Geelong Velodrome. And I burnt my candle at both ends, and I got sick. I probably had enough in the tank to break the record, but it turns out that I can't eat enough, basically. The 24-hour attempt is really, it's an eating race with some cycling thrown in for fun. And to quote Jesse Carlson there, he didn't make that quote around 24-hour racing. He made that around his Trans Am win in his race across America that he won when he went and raced that. But I think it's a great quote. It's an eating race with some cycling thrown in for fun. And I thought I was a pretty good eater, but I ran out of my ability to keep the carbs going in, and I fell in a hole at about 13 to 14 hours. So after that, I accepted that it doesn't matter what I do, that I was never going to be able to fix that problem. I shouldn't say that. I think I probably could, but that just with the way life is at the moment, that's now well beyond me, and I'm very happy to have moved on from there and have other passionate people riding my bike, such as Kyle and Ned, jump in and make my bikes look pretty fast. It's really quite pleasing. Seeing somebody rip down the main straight at Ford Proving Ground doing the top end of 80 kilometres per hour down the front straight. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, it's one thing being in it too, doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. So just for the listeners, like when I did my 1 hour, it was last year? Yeah, last year.
Yeah, Easter last year, that's right. Well, your second 1 hour, you did one in 2016 as well?
After your 24 attempts.
Yeah.
So basically that was the first time I probably met Tim, and he finished his attempt and climbed out, and I rolled up, and there's so many adjustments, like the length of basically anything can adjust so it can suit a rider, you know.
That's funny. There's only two things that I can really adjust in the bike, and one is pedal boom length, and the other is crank length. So Kyle's busy telling me that everything can get adjusted in it, but the only two things I can adjust is pedal boom length and crank length. So I messed around with those a little bit, specifically for Kyle ahead of his first 1 hour attempt in 2016.
Yeah.
And so at that stage, Gareth Hanks had the Australian 1 hour record at 73.6 kilometres per hour, which after coming off a failed 24-hour attempt, I thought that was we were never ever going to beat that. That was in my heart. I'm like, all right, well, this has been fun, but maybe time to pack up the sticks and go home. But Kyle comes in. I didn't really know Kyle. Kyle jumps on the bike and rips off, first few laps at like 78, 79, 80 Ks an hour. And I'm like, no, he's going to blow up. He's going to blow up. And he held it on, and he stuck with his 77.3 in 2016, which was just that was a huge moment for me, even though I wasn't riding.
Wow, that was really cool, man. So, taking us back to when you were racing for Pedal Prix, in Pedal Prix, can you tell us some of your favourite or least favourite moments in the sport?
Favourite moments, favourite moment was, I can still remember it very clearly. Actually, 2011, when we won. It was not so much the end of the race that was memorable as well. But I can remember getting the fastest lap for our category, and I got it shortly after midnight. It was, most people get their fastest lap on lap one. It's the only time you get clean racing. We played a pretty strategic game that year. It was funny, interesting going into that race. We were a bit cooked, and we didn't think we had what it was going to take to win that race. I'm getting back to the midnight saga, but we thought we were beat, and there was one guy that stood up beforehand and was like, "Nah, I'm going to start the race." And suddenly, kind of the attitude started changing a little bit, and Ross Gehry coming after 1 hour, our first rider in second spot, and it was kind of like, actually, we might be in with a chance this year. So we were playing it pretty cool for the first 6 or 7 hours. We were just kind of cruising around. It was a very hot race. We had fans in our bike, and we were basically just taking it easy, really, for the first 6 or so hours, to make sure we didn't bake ourselves prior to the whole rest of the race. We had our fans operating. We turned those off at about like 8 or 9 o'clock or something that night. And then we actually started to turn the pressure up later on in the evening. And so I remember jumping in the bike. It was either my second or third stint. We were having some kind of, I think we were having vision issues, and we'd swapped to our main lid, which is not really set up for nighttime riding. I'd been doing this wacky thing where I'd made up a set of plastic bags to go over my legs. Nice little trick for people. Part of the one, if you think about windows fogging on your bike, there's a few different ways you can stop it, right? There's a lot of people that do double glazing. There's a lot of people that do cheese graters. There's people now that have fancy setups that come in from the nose and shoot up and over their screen. We didn't have quite enough air going through our night lid, so we'd actually taken our night lid off to do some adjustments to it, and we put our day lid back on. Nobody else wanted to ride, so I jumped in, I put the leg bags on, and so it captures all the sweat from your legs, and so you don't have dirty air in the front half of the bike. And it's actually, that was one little neat trick that we had, and there was nobody else on the team that was prepared to do that. So anyway, I was a bit angry. I put the leg bags on. I said, Righto, get the bloody lid off. You fix that up. I'll go ride for 40 minutes or an hour or something like that. And I was in the zone. Everything was, how to describe it? Everything felt like it was happening with both the fast forward and the slow motion button at the same time. Everything was coming at me real fast, but everything felt like it was in slow motion. And I remember coming around the Channel 7 corner on the top end of the course, and I got a good run through, and I'm like, I'm actually carrying a bit of speed here. And it felt like there was no traffic, and I was ripping it up for 3 or 4 laps in a row, and the guys in the team come out waving things at me, going lap record, and best moment in cycling for me was that stint that night, getting angry.
Big secret.
That's crazy.
We bagged up the legs.
Yeah, and I had this pair of chaps bags that I'd made and strapped on, and off I went. I made a bunch of them up for everybody else in the team, but no one else would wear them.
That's crazy.
And what about worst memory or moment that you can recall?
Okay, so moving on to probably the worst, one of the worst things that happened within Team Phantom, at least. I've had probably 48 hours to contemplate this question since you first asked it, Kyle, but I feel quite passionate about answering this one properly, and people will see some of the things that I've done and have really been quite successful with what I'm doing. But what I'd like to instill on people is that for every major success and every major outcome that we've had, there's probably been at least 2 to 3 times as much failure that's gone along with them. So in terms of really poor things, really bad things that have happened within Team Phantom, I'm going to talk about 2 different occasions, actually. One of them was, I think back 12 months before winning Murray Bridge in 2011. We were getting ready for Wonthaggi. And one of the worst things that happened was 24 hours before the event, we were pretty concerned about fogging, and I logged down in Wonthaggi. Most of our team was based in Wonthaggi, and pretty concerned about fogging. So I jumped in the bike and rode off into a hill somewhere at night time out the back of the local guy's shed. And I had no idea where I was going. Trying to work really hard to get the bike to fog up. And I got lost. I didn't know where I was, and I rolled the bike. It was pretty terrible. Not so much because of the damage that was done to the bike. There was certainly some scratching and so forth, and it hurt a lot of people's pride, and particularly my own. But that upset our team, and it took us probably a couple of months to get over that. We were at each other for 24 to 48 hours after that event, and as it happened, we still had fogging the next night, so we didn't solve the problem. And I look back at that and I kind of go, well, there's a pretty bad outcome. It was a terrible outcome. I don't regret trying to go out and test to see whether or not the bike fogged. But if I had my time over again, I'd still go out, I'd still ride, but I'd try and pick somewhere that I knew better, somewhere that was a bit safer than where we were doing it, and see if we could get the same thing to happen again. I could go on for quite a while about it, but I just that was pretty terrible. It took us a long time to get over it, but it we did eventually get past it. So that was probably the worst thing that happened while I was inside a bike. But another one that weighs pretty heavily on me, if we get into the speed biking side of things, we think back to 2013. I was meant to be attempting a 6-hour attempt, but for whatever reason I couldn't do it. But Wade Edwards popped his hand up, and he was super keen. He jumped in, came on down when we were living in Torquay, and he attempted the 6-hour record in the first speed bike that I built that was called the Phantom TT. And he'd been averaging like 63 k's an hour or something like that for the better part of 3.5 hours. And a fairing mount popped, and just we couldn't get the bike going again. We did eventually get it going half an hour later, but by then it was over, and that was the end of that attempt for him, which was pretty disappointing. But then we made a bit of a pact together, and one of the mistakes that I made in the next 6 months was that I committed to doing something with Wade that I couldn't deliver on. Anyway, Wade, he set aside 6 to 8 months, and he trained like an absolute devil. He got on a ventilator, high altitude training with his ventilator, and he set aside 6 to 8 months of his life to have a good old crack at the 6-hour solo. We completely rebuilt the bike. We transformed the TT into the Mini T. We cut a lot of length out of the bike. We cut width. We cut height out of the bike. And Wade really helped to drive me to get a lot of that kind of work done. And I'm forever thankful for that. But the bike wasn't finished. He set aside 6 to 8 months of his life to have a crack at the 6-hour record, and he didn't even get to attempt. The bike was a dog. It just the first time we rode it, it just didn't get there, and that got pretty wild for a little while. I know Wade was really angry, and we've since gotten past that as well. I'm quite fortunate and glad to call Wade a close friend of mine, and so then. He got a bulged disc in his lower back. The dream's over. He can't come at it again. And I say again, for every success that we had, there's been some horror stories that maybe not horror stories, but just you don't always win. You've got to be prepared to stay at these things for a long period of time. It took us the better part of 10 years of time with the Phantom team while pedal pre-racing to go from a beginner team to being mildly competitive to actually being in the mix, and it took us the better part of 3 years to really crack a couple of major victories, and I would say that the same thing happened with all of my speed biking work as well. So that's that one.
Okay, so talking about little like alterations and things that you have to do during a race. If you were to give, like, based on the racing that you see now in pedal pre, if there are a couple of little tips that majority of teams could take from to improve their racing or improve their bike, is there anything that stands out? Just a couple of little, pieces of advice.
Make sure your toe in and toe out is set properly, and know how to fix it quickly. We had a couple of fun races where we bent a track rod or a track rod vibrated loose on us, and we're running with some ridiculous amount of toe in, and it was a little insidious thing that it took us like 6 or 8 hours of lost time to figure out what was going on. Get your toe in and toe out set properly. Do it when you've got somebody sitting in the bike. Your toe in and toe out can change. On most bikes that I see, there's a bit of flex in the main column that holds the two front wheels together. Set your toe in and toe out with your bike sitting on the rider, and make sure that's right. That might sound a bit funny because there's a lot of things that I know about how to make bikes go fast, but get your toe in and toe out right. If you really want to build a fast bike, I'd focus on sealing off your front wheels. That's pretty much the philosophy that we've taken to designing bikes. I did some test work. Probably getting a little bit off topic here, but one of the biggest things that I did was I bought a power tap hub and laced it into a 20-inch wheel so I could go do some testing on a bike. And we learned so much from doing that and understanding, how much power you put into a bike to make it go at different speeds. Very quickly threw away our wheels out bike. Having bits that stick out in the air is just a terrible, terrible idea.
Yeah.
I came into Peddlebury thinking that I'd have this really narrow bike, and that because of that, I'd have less cross-sectional area. I'd have the wheels outside the bike, and that'd be a really good aerodynamic design. I did one test where I cut the roll cage off our bike after an event. I did a test with and without it, and that made it was like either a 10 or a 12% difference in speed that the bike was running at, like 12% just from cutting a little piece of roll cage off the outside of the bike.
Wow, that's huge.
I decided 5 minutes later that we had to drop the wheels out bike that we were riding. Of course, that was probably apparent. Having a wheels out bike was not a good design decision to everybody else in the sport. But once I saw that data, I dropped it. We didn't do anything more with it, and so then rather than trying to build a new fairing, I got in contact with John Taylor and said, "Hey, can we get one of your fairings, please?" Trying to answer your, I'm kind of going around in circles here a little bit. Set your toe in and toe out. Build your bike around sealing off your front wheel holes completely from the rest of your bike. Get some kind of power management device on your bike and just go out and test stuff. It's that data that'll tell you very quickly what you should and shouldn't be doing with bikes. So biggest advice for race teams who are really keen to improve their performance: get a power tap, get an SRM, power meters are so inexpensive these days. Get a set of vectors. I don't know, just get something in your bike, get out there and start learning, try different tires, try different wheels, try setting your toe in and toe out by 3 or 4 millimeters and see what difference it makes. Cut holes in your screen, measure it. You'll very quickly learn what you should and shouldn't be doing in a race. Power measurement.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Tim, before we get on to some quick fire questions, in your entire history in the sport, do you have like something that stands out, a most impressive performance? Like this could be anything that you've seen, training or racing. Does anything stand out for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Ned Volk in 2017 or 18 when he was attempting the 24-hour. That was impressive. It was a bit loose there at different stages. Obviously, that particular event didn't end well, but that was hugely impressive. Of course, your 1 hour, your 81.6. That was pretty impressive for me. So those two those rate right up there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what about, have you seen any really poor performances or anything like that from, anything funny or just...
I don't know. There's been so much funny stuff that I've seen over the years. I got the biggest blast from watching the 2008 through about 2007 through about 2009. There was a bike that was called the Shark. Wasn't particularly well. Wasn't a particular speedster at all. It was probably the slowest bike on the course, but it was fun. I love that bike. Poor old set of primary school kids that were pedaling this bike around for 24 hours. I think they needed more passion to ride their bikes around for 24 hours than what we did. But that was I don't want to make fun of them, but it was that was kind of cool. I liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I have to think about that for a minute and take a few cuts at it.
That's okay.
Fun things. There's been a lot of fun stuff.
Is there a plan for the future to return to the grid? I think that's what we all want to know.
We all want to know. Yeah, I think we're going to come back and have a race. I don't think we're going to be super competitive, but I am in the progress of rebuilding the old S chair. A lot of people would know what that bike was, and that was the precursor to our Phantom bikes that we did so well with. So I'm cutting and shutting the old S chair and putting it into I managed to pick up a seconds fairing from John Taylor.
Oh.
So we're cutting and shutting the S chair. We're fitting it into the old Phantom bike. A lot of the old guys on the team, they're all keen to come back for a ride. Look, COVID restrictions allowing. Hopefully, if Wonthaggi runs next year, we'll be there for a ride to catch up with the old boys again. And
go we have it first there, ladies and gentlemen. We have it first.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We'll be there. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Actually, it'll be good to get back on the grid and have a bit of a ride around. Not so much to beat the pants off people, but just to have some fun. It'll be good.
Yeah. And Tim, what about any future plans other than that? Like, what else do you maybe have going on in the future?
Yeah. So obviously, still very keen with the speed bikes. I've been dreaming of heading over to Battle Mountain now for quite a while. Obviously, you're aware of that one, Kyle, and keen to come over for the trip with me. There's a few other people that will probably be involved over the next few years with the kind of things that we're doing. So we're definitely planning to take the Mini T, the bike that we have at the moment, over to Battle Mountain and have a shot at the outright multi-track record that Gareth Hanks has. So just for viewers at home, Gareth currently has the multi-track world record at 119 kilometres per hour. There's this piece of roadway out in the high plains in Nevada. It's about an elevation, I think 1.6 or 1.7 kilometres, somewhere around there. And they've got this great big long dead straight 8 mile course. It's all just ever so slightly downhill. It's where all the world records get set, and we're keen to go and take that bike over and have a shot at the multi-track record. So building towards that, and we have a bit of a new sneaky concept that we're working on in the background that over the next kind of 2-3, I kind of see it as a 4-year project. We're planning on breaking the outright world record, which is 144 kilometres per hour, and the outright 1 hour record. So we'll be looking to try and break both of those over the next 3-4 years. So hatched a bit of a cunning plan. I can't talk too much about it. I think once people understand what we're up to, there'll be a lot of people that will go, "Guys are crazy. It's never going to work." But I think some of the smarter people in the sport will acknowledge once we arrive with our concepts, they'll go, "Oh yeah, that took some balls, but that's somebody should have done it by now." So yeah, we're working on something, and we're keen. And at some point, once we've actually built and tested, we'll let people know what we're up to. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is pretty cool what's going on behind the scenes there, but we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, look out. So moving on now. Darcy and myself have got some quick fire questions or some would you rathers. They're pretty random.
Yeah.
Darcy, you want to take us off?
All right, Tim. What is your favourite track?
Ford Proving Ground. I love it. It's most people are like, it's Murray Bridge the whole way, but actually, I know this is quick fire, but I'm going to talk to this one just shortly. I thought about this question for a while. Sorry, I'm going to talk to it. Why do I prefer Ford more? I realizing recently that actually I prefer the solo aspects of the sport, and I really like the clarity that you get out there. There's not 500 bikes coming at you. It's very purist, and it's clean. I really do like heading out to Ford. It's something I look forward to every year.
Okay, so talking about that, in your 24-hour attempt or any stint, but I'm going to assume your 24-hour attempt, what was the strangest thing that you ate or drank?
Wow. Strangest thing I drank. Yeah, I got a bit loose with my eating schedule later in the piece, and I got somebody to put a one of those little fizzy tablets in with one of my drink bottles, and I think two of them might have got thrown in, and I remember making some jokes about it at the time. But I think I had a fizzy tablet. I want to say it was thrown in a bottle of milk, but it wasn't actually. It was just water. It was a new fizzy tablet. Lesson for you all: don't change your nutrition when you don't try something new in a race. For some reason, I thought it was a good idea. Yeah, don't do that. Strangest thing that I do and that I've eaten, I would say, is milk. I got big on drinking milk in races. People find it a bit crazy, but particularly from a 24-hour event, after a while I got on drinking milk. It's good. Yeah.
All right.
All right. That's
quick answers. Sorry. Here we go.
Yeah, that's a strange one.
Ask the question again. Cut it and go again.
All right, Tim. So what event or what performance puts you most in the box? Like, which one hurt the most out of all of them you've done?
Yeah, the 24-hour solo. There was a lot of hurt with that one. Yeah, that I don't think I'm going back there again.
All right. Now, would you rather in a race the quickest lap in the race or in qualifying for your team?
Yeah, no, in the race.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to deal with the traffic.
Yeah. All right, Tim. Would you rather start the race or finish the race?
Start.
Yep.
Okay. My quickfire question is, what is your pre-race meal? Do you have a Parma or a Palmy?
Oh, yeah, Palmy all the way. Yeah, Palmy.
Oh, what?
Yeah. We've got. I'm going to go with a high five with Darcy. Yeah, it's Palmy all the way. People
there we go.
Need to be banished. I swear. Sorry, you can't ride the bike anymore, Kyle. So
he's going to be riding his high.
I was shocked. That was shocking. I was like, oh, here we go again. And I was bloody Victorian. And yes.
Yeah. Palmy for the win.
All
right. I can't even remember my next question. Yeah. All right, Tim. Would you rather roll the trike or ride in abysmal conditions?
Oh, yeah, I'll go with abysmal conditions. Yeah. I'll put my leg bags on and go. Let's go. Yeah.
All right. My last question is a would you rather. You're in the middle of a 24-hour race. Now, you can't fix either of the problems. Would you rather race the rest of the 24-hour with no brakes or no gears?
Oh, no gears.
Yeah.
That's fair. Safety.
Yeah, no, you can't ride without brakes.
Yep.
I know there's a lot of people make gags about brakes for the other guys, but you might not use them that often, but when you need them, you got to hit them. You'll end your race without brakes. You won't. You just the race is over.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. I think I've got one more question. What is the nicest looking trike or racing trike vehicle you've ever seen, Tim?
Oh, nicest looking.
We got him on one.
Trying to think what's been a really, really well presented and finished. I like the loved the flame job that was on the first bullet fairing that came with Maiden Gully Primary School. John Taylor's bikes. The team that brought that over was an impressive paint job for the time and for what other teams are doing.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, I'm all out of questions. What about you, Darcy? You got any more?
Yeah, I think I'm all out. So it's time to wrap it up, I guess. So,
right.
Tim, thank you so much for coming on the season finale of Talking Trikes. It's been awesome talking to you. And I think a lot of people are going to get some insights out of this fun interview.
Yeah,
Tim, it's been awesome having you on. Tonight, our episode is our season finale for season 1. We're going to be bringing some more content, over summer. But if anyone does want to reach out, you can through Instagram or Facebook. But we'll look forward to seeing you all for season 2 of Talking Trikes. So everyone stay safe and have a good time. Thanks again, Tim.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will see you for season 2 of Talking Trikes. Thanks, guys.
See ya.